I will tell you that we can't ignore the laws and legislation and policy piece because that contributes a lot to what our culture is. And I'll use the example of the tobacco industry. You know, when I was a kid, if anybody had told me that there would be a time where you could walk in a restaurant and there's no smoking in any restaurant or any business, right? Or, I mean, I'm from Pitt County, so you could smoke in the hospital in Pitt County. I mean, if anyone had said that day would come, never believe it. Never believe it. But because of so much advocacy and because the law changed and said you have to put this warning on the package and you can't sell it to kids anymore, right? That helped shift the culture. And we need to realize that legislation and policy can be a piece of shifting that culture. So I was interested when Alyssa mentioned the year 2010. That was a big year for me because that's the year that we incorporated North Carolina Stop Human Trafficking. So we've been celebrating our 15th anniversary all year. And what I'd like to do is just tell you what our vision and our mission is. Our vision is a state free of human trafficking. As Ricky said, reducing it's not good enough. We want a state free of human trafficking. And our mission is creating communities that are actively working to abolish human trafficking. And I know that it is Alyssa and Alyssa's heart that this community become one of those. And so I am grateful that y'all are here and that y'all are willing to learn more about human trafficking and to potentially consider being part of a coalition or a group that's actually working on it here in your community. I want to mention another group while I'm up here, and you'll see a table for both of these out in the lobby, the North Carolina Coalition Against Human Trafficking. And this is a group that is a statewide group of nonprofits, agencies, and some individuals and some businesses coming together to make connections and to all work together to create a plan to stop human trafficking here in North Carolina. And so the vision for that group is a united effort to end human trafficking. So the whole idea of this group is uniting all of us behind one vision. And the mission is we foster connection and collaboration within the anti-human trafficking community. And so again, working together, those connections. And hopefully that's what's happening here tonight and what will continue to happen tomorrow is that we will be making connections with one another. Okay, jumping into the law of the land. So who here knows, aside from my friends in the front row here, who here knows the very first law that addressed human trafficking here in the United States? Y'all are shy, but it was back in 2000. It was the Trafficking Victims Protection Act of 2000. And so this was the very first time, so 25 years ago, first time that we had a definition for human trafficking, that we had consequences for perpetrators, and we had some funds set aside to provide services for those who were victimized. I'm going to read this once. The recruitment, harboring, transportation, provision, obtaining, advertising, maintaining, patronizing, or soliciting of a person for labor or services through the use of force, fraud, or coercion for the purpose of subjection to involuntary servitude, debt bondage, or slavery. Now, what I'd like to point out is that beginning part, all those different verbs. Why so many different verbs? Congress wanted to be sure that any person who contributed to someone else being trafficked could be charged with that crime. So they added to it over time. It didn't start out being quite that long. Now, this is the definition for sex trafficking. That one was for labor trafficking. And the only difference is that instead of for an act of labor, it's for a commercial sex act. And this next part is really important. Age makes a difference. So if a person is under the age of 18 and is committing acts of commercial sex, they're automatically a victim of sex trafficking. You don't have to prove that force, fraud, or coercion if they're a minor. And that's pretty important when we go back and think about the video that Alyssa showed us that showed these children up here being arrested for prostitution, right? So you have kids being arrested for a crime being committed against them, and we didn't see any traffickers or any sex buyers getting arrested, did we? No, we didn't. So thank goodness that has changed. So this is a brief timeline of the laws here in North Carolina. The first one that I just mentioned is the only federal one, the TVPA, the Trafficking Victims Protection Act of 2000. Can y'all believe it took 9 years after that for North Carolina to actually have a state law on human trafficking? We were a little bit behind. And it was a fairly decent law. It did pretty much mirror the federal law in saying, again, that if you're under 18, then you couldn't be arrested for prostitution. You were automatically a victim of sex trafficking. Unfortunately, at that time, we had prostitution law in place that did not address age. And so if you're in law enforcement and you had not been trained on this new law, the definition of human trafficking, then you could still arrest minors under the prostitution law at that time. And let me tell you, they weren't trained. And today even, they get 2 hours in basic law enforcement training on human trafficking. 2 hours. So they did want to fix this problem. Whoops, sorry. Whoops, wrong way. They did want to fix this problem, and so in 2013, took them 4 years to fix this problem, we passed what's called Safe Harbor, which specified that minors could not be arrested for prostitution, and also made some other really positive changes to that law, saying that if you're a person being accused or has been charged with purchasing sex from a minor, well, let me ask y'all, what do y'all think if I come up and accuse you of having sex with a minor? What is the very first thing that you're going to say? I didn't know she was a minor. She said she was 18. All right, not a defense, written explicitly in the statute. And what's the second thing you're probably going to say? It was consensual. I didn't make her do anything. She wanted to do it. Also, not a defense. So that law did some good things. Then in 2015, our legislature decided to make sex education, sex trafficking awareness and prevention a part of the sex ed curriculum. And all of us in the anti-trafficking world was like, yay, that's a great idea. We're going to start talking to kids about sex trafficking. Unfortunately, there's absolutely no enforcement mechanism in that statute, so there's no way of knowing if it's happening or not. And what we do know is that in some schools, they're not even teaching the sex ed part, right? So then they're certainly not getting this aspect. So something that our organization and others would like to see is to go back and add an enforcement mechanism in that. In 2017, General Assembly began to require that several different types of businesses post the human trafficking hotline. Again, a great idea. Places that have an ABC license, transportation hubs like airports and train stations and bus stations, strip clubs, hospital ERs. Again, a really great idea. But let me ask y'all, when's the last time you were in a hospital ER? I had to take my son to one 2 weeks ago. There's no sign. There's no sign there. And I bet a lot of us have been to restaurants lately where they have an ABC license, right? Well, guess why you don't see it? Because the Restaurant and Lodging Association went to the General Assembly and said, we can't have a poster that has the word sex on it where our customers can see it. And got legislature to take out the words, the public, so that the public could see it. So in 2019, the General Assembly decided to make it easier for victims to get some crimes expunged. And to put that in a little bit of context, when someone is under the control of a trafficker, they are often required to break laws, not just the obvious one of prostitution, but they're required to sell drugs, transport drugs, shoplift, commit assaults, all kinds of things. We had a crazy case in Pitt County where a trafficker required his victim, who was 15 or 16, to pass counterfeit money, which is how she got discovered and out of that situation, thank goodness. So they're requiring them to break all these laws. And so these victims are building up these criminal histories. And the trafficker just uses that against them. You know, if you try to tell anyone what's going on, you're just a criminal. Look at your background. Nobody's going to believe you. So the more and more that a victim accumulates these arrests, the more and more they begin to believe there is no hope. I'm never getting out of this. Thankfully, we do have a law now that allows survivors to get some crimes expunged. This law was intended to make it a little bit easier, which it does. It is still incredibly difficult and incredibly time-consuming, but it can be done. So I wanted to go back to the one, no, I'm sorry, I hadn't mentioned this one yet. So in 2019 also, the same year as the expungement, the legislature began to require that teachers and other school staff have to have 2 hours of training every other year, which is a great idea. I thought it was really odd when they first required it to be part of the sex ed curriculum and hadn't taught the teachers anything about it, right? So if a child did self-identify or, you know, want to talk to someone, then our school staff had not been trained. But so they did change the law in 2019, so the staff gets 2 hours every 2 years. Better than nothing, right? We'll take it. So I wanted to mention something y'all might have seen in the news earlier this year. We had some new laws passed that affect our hotels and motels and lodging establishments that require them to train their employees on how to identify a potential victim, requires them to have a protocol for their employees to follow if they do believe that they've seen a victim, and to post the hotline number that I mentioned. So I will say I was in a meeting earlier this week at a Holiday Inn Express in Greenville, and in the ladies' room that was off the lobby was a very prominent sign. So I was impressed with them. So, can y'all think of a type of business, probably in your area, where you might have seen things on the news about sex trafficking happening? Have y'all ever seen anything about illicit massage parlors, illicit massage businesses? And I'm going to show you a couple of pictures in case, just so you'll kind of know what one looks like, right? So here's one, and a telltale sign is always that you can't see inside. They've got the windows covered up for sure. Sometimes they use prettier things to cover it up, like this one. And another telltale sign is they always have strange hours. And by strange, what I mean is, you know, I've had a massage like once or twice in my life, and the spa I went to was not open 7 days a week. And it wasn't open from 8 in the morning until 10 at night. And you'll see some of these that are open, you know, into the wee hours of the morning. That's a sign. This is not a massage parlor that Pam Strickland would go to, probably, right? So it's been really hard for law enforcement to know how to handle it. But I'm going to break it down for you and tell you exactly how easy it is to handle it. Because the legislature and the North Carolina Massage and Bodywork Therapy Board made it super simple. The business has to have a license from this board, the massage business. And everyone in the business who performs massage has to also have a license from this board. So it's super easy. You don't, no investigation is needed, no undercover, no none of that. You walk in and you look on the wall and you say, I don't see a license on your wall. Oh, we don't have one of those. And then you ask for the licenses of the people that work there. And if they don't have them, this is an illegal massage parlor. It's super simple. So I'm not sure why it is that more of them aren't being shut down. So here is the exact law. I kind of summarized it. So one law, I have to brag on behalf of this organization a little bit. The North Carolina Demand Reduction Task Force, and one of my co-founders is right here in the front, Nikki Miller with Shield NC. And what this group does, and I'm so excited to have heard the word demand reduction come out of so many other people's mouths this evening. What we do is try to figure out how to reduce demand. And not just with one strategy, education, treatment, of course, getting charged, working with the culture, all different kinds of ways. But one way we had success last year was that we went to the General Assembly and we told our legislators that law enforcement told us they weren't going after sex buyers because that charge is a misdemeanor. And that it took too much time and too much effort to run the reverse sting operations. And their sheriffs and their chiefs of police said it wasn't worth the investment. Because at the end of the night, you have this handful of misdemeanors. And then you take it to the DA, and depending on where you are, they may not even charge it. So we told the General Assembly all that, and they're like, Some of them thought it was already a felony. But they changed it. It went into effect December 1st. Solicitation of prostitution is a felony now in North Carolina. We were the second state after Texas. So very quickly, I want to just mention a couple of things, and we'll be talking more about this throughout tomorrow as well. Things that you can do. You can contact your legislators and tell them, hey, I noticed that the ER in my area doesn't have one of those signs, and the bars don't have it, and the bus station in my community doesn't have it. Maybe y'all should add something in that statute to follow up on that, to see if folks are doing it like they're supposed to. And if you decide to do that, calling to make an appointment is your best bet. An in-person appointment is your best bet. Contacting law enforcement. So for instance, when I just spoke about the massage parlors, there's already a great law in place. So you can very respectfully ask your local law enforcement, why is there this massage business in our community that nothing's been done about it? Respectfully. Another thing you can do is talk to your friends and people in your circle of influence. Um, as John mentioned, a lot of people find it uncomfortable to talk about pornography, to talk about sex trafficking, but we have to talk about it. And if you just can't bring yourself to talk about it, you can at least follow us on social media and learn a little bit about it and maybe share it with your friends that way. So I will close. If you all are interested. Okay. If y'all are interested in this issue of legislation related to human trafficking, I'd be glad to talk with you more about it. Just let me know.